I guess you turned this on because you wanted to catch what I just said, huh? All right.
What?
You want to go back into that real quick? All right. So what I was just talking about, we were just looking at some comments on a message board. Jay Parker just did an interview from here yesterday with Alfred Weber on exopolitics.tv. And we were checking out his video that Alfred posted on YouTube and reading some comments, and we got into a comment about, Enki was mentioned. And, this went back, we were talking about these ancient myths that talk about human interactions with extraterrestrial beings that may have visited this planet in the ancient past. Now, I was saying I haven't really started talking about this much with people. I've done one or two interviews that I've touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to be getting into it a little bit more on my show, and it is an area of speculation. I can't tell anybody that I know the absolute truth about this, because I do not. It's very fragmented, but I mean, my general thesis on this is it all connects back to human psychopathy and why we're experiencing what we experience, and what is this fraction of 1% of people that don't have the ability to empathize at all with other human beings. So, I've touched on that a lot on my podcast and on my radio show. But one of the things I didn't really get into is, why does human psychopathy exist? Why does this belief in authority exist in the first place? Where did it come from? Where did this concept of a divine right to rule come from? Why have these things stayed so ingrained in our species? What is our species, psychological dynamic of an abandonment complex? Humanity has an abandonment issues on a wide scale, and the whole concept is, my whole thesis for this is, in the ancient past we did have interactions with other beings that didn't have our interests in mind, and there's this speculation in ancient texts that maybe these beings were responsible for our current condition, were responsible for our current makeup. When you go into looking into the origins of psychopathy, you come across three basic premises, three basic explanations. And if you really think about them, there's not many other explanations possible. I mean, either God did this to us, either the creator of the universe made us this way, and we just express this quality that is human psychopathy, the absence of the capacity to feel. That's one explanation. Did God do this to us? Did God put this condition here with humanity? That's a horrible thing to contemplate. I personally don't think that's the case, because you look around, you look at other systems, you look at other species, it's in balance. Humanity is way out of balance, so I don't look at that hypothesis as holding any weight. Then there's so you're really left with two other hypotheses as to what put human psychopathy here with humanity, and that's either we did it, or some other being, some other species of beings did it. So, the one hypothesis goes, we reached some kind of peak of civilization, fell into a lower state of consciousness, used technology to manipulate our own genome to try in some form to make it better, and made it worse, and had this fallen man, we disconnected ourselves and created this condition of psychopathy. That doesn't really resonate with me either, that we did that. I'm not saying it isn't possible. It may be possible. But the thing that resonates with me the most, because it explains so much of current human belief systems and the current human condition, is that it is possible that some other species of beings that interacted with us in our ancient, distant past did this to us, put us in the current condition that we are in by manipulating human genetics. And there's a lot of evidence for this. If you read ancient accounts, they talk about technologies, they even talk about genetic manipulations that were done in the ancient past to try to make a specialized kind of being that they wanted. Maybe they were here for particular resources and needed actual physical laborers, and wanted to take some of their genetics, take some of the ancient hominids that were here on this planet developing naturally on their natural course of evolutionary development, modify their gene, maybe splice some of their genes into it to make them a little bit more advanced so that they could follow the instructions enough on what they were being commanded to do to mine the resources that this other race needed here. And then after they were finished with that, they split. They just took off and went back to wherever they were from. And you know, it could have been interaction over thousands of years, hundreds of years, or even a short period of time. That's all it would have really taken. So if you look at that possibility, and I'm not saying this is true, I'm just saying this is one of the possibilities out there. It's speculation. Like I said, when I start talking about this a lot on my show, which I'm going to in the future, I may say this is the part of the show we have to call What on Earth May Be Happening, or What on Earth May Have Happened. It's not what on earth necessarily definitely is happening, so I think speculation is important. We have to look at all possibilities of what has happened because we don't have the full story. We have fragmented pieces of the puzzle. So my thesis is that these beings didn't really care about what they were making. They wanted laborers, temporary laborers. And so they did the manipulations that they were going to do. They used the labor for what they needed it for, and they took off. While they were here, they were our gods. They settled disputes. They commanded people what to do. So they were gods for all intents and purposes. You know, they were judge, jury, and executioner, if you want to look at it that way. And this is where this concept of authority and divine right to rule may have come from in our very ancient past. And you know, we just took that because we didn't know any better. We were basically new creations, you know, that weren't really meant to be in this form because we were kind of a hybridized species. This makes a lot more sense than Darwinian macrobiological evolution, for which there's no evidence in the fossil record. At least to me it does. And again, a lot of people will be very, you know, taken aback by that. They'll be, you know, they'll be lashed back. You know, that's okay. You know, I think it makes a lot more sense because it not only explains where this fallen consciousness came from, it not only explains where human psychopathy came from, because these beings didn't really care about that much what they were making, and they did their genetic splicing in imprecise ways that led to different genetic expressions and conditions, like psychopathy and some of the other 4,000 various genetic disorders that humanity has in their genome. So, you know, they just did this genetic manipulation, let it express, and it expressed in a way that created this condition that we see today as psychopathy.
You know, what's interesting is that these are ideas that have been scoffed at for years, but we're living now in a time where more and more people are looking at the truth about our origins,
right,
our true human origins.
Right.
But we see the History Channel attempting to co-opt the truth by bringing out the information that people are looking for, legends, mythologies about alien intervention, but they are portraying these aliens to be perhaps the gods, or instead of misleaders and manipulators and those harvesting humanity.
Sorry about that.
There are people that are looking at this information and going, they're getting one side of the story. The History Channel has scripted their programs to state what they have done for humanity instead of the opposite.
Yeah, I think it's also part of it is that they're presenting the information in the form of infotainment instead of, you know, more of a scholarly approach, or an approach that is really trying to get to the truth about what happened in the ancient past and why the current human condition is the way that it is. You know, this all really goes back to the origins not only of authority but the origins of evil. You know, of this fallen consciousness that all the ancient scriptures talk about. You know, if you're a race of beings that doesn't really care about this hybridized species that you just made through some advanced genetic splicing, and you just only wanted them for temporary labor, and you did that work imprecisely, and so different genetic anomalies expressed, you know, like I said, psychopathy very possibly being one of them. And then you set up this system of, quote, government, of authority, that you are their masters because you made them. You're the parental figure. And they have to listen to your authority because you're from the stars. You are, you know, a different bloodline. You are of the gods, you know, that live in the heavens. And you give this story to them, and that expresses in this concept of the belief in authority, and hence the form of government that we were living under when these beings were here with us. Then if they leave suddenly, there's this abandonment issue. Well, now the parental figures aren't there. Now who's going to guide us? Now who's going to tell us what to do? Who's going to be our leader? Who's going to be our ruler, our master? And that now, I think what happened is the beings that were left on the planet that these other beings from elsewhere bred with and intermingled with, okay, and they created a hybridized form between our species that they had made and the original extraterrestrial species that came here in the past. Now you have this demigod status. These beings that claim, well, we have more of the God's blood in us, and that gives us the right to take over. Since now they're gone, we will be the new government, we will be the new masters, the new rulers, because we have more of their essence within us, and therefore we have the divine right to take over and be the kings, the rulers of the earth, and rule over the other beings who are simply this genetic manipulated race that still exists here. And I was going to go into speculation about how some of these beings thought that this was wrong and wanted to get rid of all the hybridized species that had been created. They looked at this as playing God. In some accounts, there's this interaction between some of them where some of them were very upset with what had been done and were trying to talk sense into the others. We should never have done this to begin with. We're trying to talk them out of it at the beginning of the process and saying this is playing God. You're playing God here. This isn't something we should be doing. We want different things to happen. We want to be able to do the things that we want to do, but not at the expense of making the slave race. Supposedly they had even conquered slavery, if you accept the stories on face value, in their domain or wherever they came from. And now they were coming here and making a slave race. So, there was dissension even among their ranks. And some of them wanted to do away with the creation of the hybridized race, or us, humanity, that was made. They said we shouldn't leave them here to just fester in this condition. We don't know. It's like tinkering with cells in a petri dish. When you do something with genetic splicing and genetic manipulation, you don't know what's going to express. You have to do the manipulation, then let it express in the culture. And that's kind of like what they decided to do. Well, we don't know what this is going to lead to, but we're going to leave them here. So I think some of these beings didn't want to leave us here. They wanted to wipe us clean, wipe the petri dish clean, because they looked at it as an abomination to begin with. That's a very dark, I understand, that's a very dark way of looking at humanity in general, but if you really sit and think about it, it explains the whole human condition. And people will say, well, that's reductionist, or that's real, far speculation. I'm not willing to speculate that far, and that's fine. Again, this is speculation. I'm not saying this is what happened. I'm saying this is a possibility. And it's a possibility that if you really follow it logically, makes a lot of sense, because it explains the human condition, it explains why we have such abandonment issues, it explains why our consciousness is so fallen, it explains why we believe in authority, why we believe in master-slave relationship, why a lot of us want that to continue, why we won't take on full responsibility for ourselves and our own actions, and it largely also helps us to understand why psychopathy is here with us to begin with. So, just a little bit of speculation there for you, and it's something that I'll be talking about a lot in the future. Absolutely. Again, no one has to take any of this at face value. People should absolutely do their own research when it comes to this. And I want to just state unequivocally, I do not have all the answers when it comes to any of this stuff. I'm a researcher like other people, and trying to put together this very different pieces of this fragmented puzzle. So when we all do that work and bring the different pieces of the puzzle to the table, maybe a true picture will emerge eventually.